Terry had given a lot of money, Hell's Angel money, to Billy Hitchcock to put in Swiss banks, as had Bear. Bear had given a lot of the money he'd gotten from making LSD and given it to Billy Hitchcock to stash in a Swiss bank. And then they both asked Billy to invest it for them in the stock market, which Billy did. And he invested it in a very highly leveraged deal, a stock deal, which fell through, and he lost all their money.
But Billy Hitchcock, Timothy Leary's former landlord and the heir to one of America's greatest fortunes, may be the most to blame for Terry the Tramp, the psychedelic Hells Angels' death.
So it's possible that he got murdered by the Hells Angels because he lost some of their money. It's possible that he committed suicide because things really didn't work out for him.
In 1965, an Anaheim, California-based motorcycle gang led by a man nicknamed Farmer John Griggs, and who usually supported themselves by robbing supermarkets, rode into the Hollywood Hills and
threw away their guns and decided to become psychedelic saviors of the world. You know, they decided to distribute LSD instead of robbing people.
they rechristened themselves the Brotherhood of Eternal Love.
In early '68, after Owsley had been busted, after Bear was busted in Orinda, I set out, I set up another lab. And I had found a source of raw material in Europe, finally, my own source of raw material. And I eventually managed to get a kilo of lysergic acid, which is enough raw material to make 3.6 million doses of LSD. Bear had sent me to Billy when I was looking for sources of raw material, and Billy, in fact, suggested the guy who turned out to be my best source. So when I wanted to try to find a distributor for the LSD that I was going to make, because I certainly didn't want to sell to the Hells Angels, I went to Billy for advice on who would be good. And Billy told me about the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, which had been organized by a fellow named John Griggs.
So the Brotherhood of Eternal Love fall in love with LSD. They had pledged to stop robbing after their acid enlightenment, and they got involved in smuggling huge amounts of marijuana from Mexico and hashish from Afghanistan, offset the losses they took in their LSD operation. They were supposedly giving it away. One of their favorite tactics was to stuff hash into surfboards coming into America. Tim Scully and his new partner, Nick Sand, were supplying the Brotherhood with tons of acid, a lot of it known as Orange Sunshine, a lot of which they really did give out for free. The Brotherhood of Eternal Love probably sold and gave away more LSD than anybody on the West Coast. They kind of brought the West Coast and East Coast psychedelic scenes together.
John Griggs, who was the leader of the Brotherhood, went back to Millbrook, which was at the time the center of LSD research on the East Coast, met Tim Leary, and was advised by Tim Leary that he should set up a religion to protect them legally. So they incorporated in California as the Brotherhood of Eternal Love.
The Brotherhood arrived on the scene just at the right time for Dr. Timothy Leary. Thanks to a series of police raids on the Millbrook estate in upstate New York, one of them led by future Watergate burglar G. Gordon Liddy, who was a local state prosecutor at the time. The East Coast was getting hot for the professor, and he headed west to hole up on the ranch of the Brotherhood of the Eternal Love.
Among the decisions was one on Dr. Timothy Leary, the former Harvard psychologist who likes to experiment with drugs. He was convicted of carrying a half ounce of marijuana on which the federal tax had not been paid.
Professor Timothy Leary was sentenced to 20 years in prison for a pair of marijuana cases involving a bag of weed and a few roaches. The Brotherhood of Eternal Love, flush with millions in drug profits, ponied up $25,000 to the radical Weather Underground, a collection of college kids turned radical bombers devoted to bringing down the American government to help free their spiritual father, Timothy Leary, from his prison cell.
Radical left-wing group, the Weathermen, has claimed responsibility for yesterday's dynamiting of a statue of a Chicago policeman.
In September, less than 9 months into a sentence, Timothy Leary escaped from prison by shimmying along a drainage pipe, hopping a barbed wire fence, and jumped into the back of a pickup truck driven by the Weather Underground.
I escaped with the help of the Weathermen Underground. 25 of their crack underground operators came to California for 6 weeks before my escape. Join us in the fight for freedom, because we are everywhere, and we're happy, and we're free, and we're going to make the world free.
While they were helping Timothy Leary escape from prison, the Brotherhood of Eternal Love were starting to have major legal troubles of their own. The Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, forerunner of the DEA, built a huge conspiracy case involving not just LSD, but marijuana and hashish as well.
Almost all the time that I was making LSD, the federal agents followed me every time they got me in their sights, every time I went home to Berkeley. So all the time I was doing it, they knew I was doing it. They followed me while I was getting chemicals, and then I'd lose them with a truckload of chemicals and go off, and they never found the lab.
During their investigation of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, the IRS estimated they'd made over $200 million. More than $1 billion in today's money. There was 1 million tablets of orange sunshine LSD seized, along with the materials to make 14 million more. There was also 6,000 pounds of hash seized and some methamphetamine. And so ended one of the key LSD pipelines in history. Most of the drug-dealing biker hippies from the Brotherhood of Eternal Love received relatively minor sentences, except for the chemists Scully and Sand, who received serious prison terms. Billy Hitchcock, the owner of Timothy Leary's Millbrook, New York headquarters, was actually a part of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love case. His Wall Street skills had made him integral in helping the Brotherhood launder their tens and millions of drug profits in banks all around the world, from the Bahamas to Switzerland. This is the kind of thing that would get you a very long prison term now. Money laundering for a major drug ring. But despite his key role in this aspect of the global drug trade, Billy Mellon Hitchcock, member of one of America's most prominent families, a family that counted the CIA director as a friend and frequent house guest, was sentenced to probation and a small fine.
In the view of the feds, they think of drug organizations as pyramids, and they think of the people who are the manufacturers and the organizers of the manufacturing as being the top of the pyramid. So they consider them to be the class 1 targets.